we are going to talk about the authentication. Authentication is actually a very basic service, API service. But one thing you may need to the thing you may need to be aware is that for authentication, we have three-legged and two-legged different type of the token, and ACC issue only support the three-legged token. With three-legged token, you actually have two ways. You can use the traditional three-legged token to access the ACC issue API, which we are going to do today. But you can also use the SSA token. We will not cover in this tutorial, but it also works. This is you can create a server-to-server application and use SSI token to do everything automatically. You don't need to have any user to log into something. It just run automatically. You can see this documentation for more details. This is a documentation for the server security account. Let me send it in the chat. Today we are going to use the traditional three-legged token here. So first for just a quick overview of the code we are going to use. The first code is we need to create those endpoints. So this is the endpoints of your server side, and your client side or anyone else can request the endpoint by the roles. Okay, we are going to create the four endpoints, which is get endpoints, and we are going to create the service under the basic service here. As I mentioned before, the service is we will use the SDK. We will use the SDK to communicate with APIs API service. You can see that for the authentication, we are going to use the authentication client to the SDK to use the get three-legged token and get user info to get the details. And the API used here is the authentication API. Okay, we are going to follow the tutorial here. Again, go back to the tutorial here. So go to the authentication and use the three-legged authentication workflow. The first thing we need to do is create the APIs.js file. You need to create this file on the service folder. And as I mentioned, this we are going to require the library of the APIs library, including Autodesk SDK Manager and Authentication SDK, and get some of our environment variables from the config files. Then we created the SDK and the client. The client also add a couple of service, as I mentioned, add a couple of service where you add a service get authorization URL, which we can use the client. We use the SDK client with the authorize to get the authorization URL. This will direct you to the Autodesk authentication server. You need to provide your tokens, your callback URL, scope, something like that. And we also provided the callback middleware. We provide a couple two middleware help you to easily to get the token. The callback middleware is used when the Autodesk authentication server complete their authorization, and then it will request your callback, and then you can use the middleware there. You can see that it will just get the three-legged token with the code exchange code here. And after you get the credential, we need to save the credential in the session. We will add the access token, refresh token, and also the expire time in the session. We keep it in the session. For the refresh, if you are not logged in, If you are not logged in, and you just open the website, it will we will use the auto refresh middleware. This middleware will help you to it will first check the session store is a session in the it will check the session, and if the flash token and expire time, the two value is already installed in the session, which means, okay, this user is already logged in, right? This log is already logged in before, and it can use the refresh token to refresh a new access token. Yeah, to always use a refresh token to generate a new access token, and replace the new refresh token with the previous one. You can see the code here. For example, if it does not find the refresh token, it means, okay, nobody logged in. The user did not log in before, so it will just return. And if it find the refresh token, it will check the expire at, which this means it will check if the access token is expired. If it's expired, it will refresh the access token. If it's not expired, you can see that it will use the internal token, which is the access token directly. You don't need to generate a new one because this is still valuable. Okay, and the last service is get user profile. This is pretty simple. We are going to use the SDK to call the user profile, which get the user email address and a name, something like that. Okay, we are going to copy the APIs files here. Okay. So I'm going to the service. Within the service, I add a file named aps.js. Okay. And then I copy, paste the code into the aps.js. Make sure your aps.js is under the folder of the services. Yeah. I already explained the code here. So after this service, we created this service, and this service can be used by the endpoint. We are going to create the endpoints in the root folder. First one is auth.js file. We are going to the root folder, select root folder, click add a new file, and create a file named auth.js. And yeah, here is the code. Let me copy the code and paste it here. Let me explain this to you. If you can see this is under root, which means we provided the endpoint for your server. We just require the Express. Express is used to create your web application, and we are also get all these services. You can see that this service we implemented in the aps.js just now. Yeah, aps.js just now we implemented a couple of the service. This service is communicating with APIs service, right? Your service is communicating with APIs service, and then we are going to within the root file auth.js file, we just import all these services, and they will be used within the endpoint within the root. We are going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 get endpoint. And the first one is the name is login to help you log in. You can see if anyone calls this API slash auth slash login, it will redirect the user to this location, and this location it will be direct you to your Autodesk authentication server. Yeah, this is the logout. Everyone call logout. When you call the logout endpoint, it will clean up your session and direct to the base domain. If this is the callback, if this callback is mainly be used by the Autodesk authentication server. As I mentioned before, we provided this callback, URL callback here. You can see that it's API auth callback. So which should be exactly match here, API auth callback. Yeah. So then when the Autodesk authentication server authorized the user request, it will automatically call this endpoint from your endpoint here. And what you are doing here is you added this callback middleware. So this middleware, as I mentioned here, it will just use this get three-legged token method from the SDK to exchange the access token and then save the token in the session. Okay. So after that, it will redirect to the root into the main domain. And the last one is get the profile. So get the profile. You can say it firstly. It will call the refresh middleware. This is used to every time when you call this profile, it will check if the token is available to make sure your token is good. So you can say, let me go back here again. You can see here, it will try to get the refresh token from the session. Please remember that refresh token is very important. You can use the refresh token to always generate a new access token because an access token will be expired in 1 hour. It will be expired in 1 hour, and when it's expired, you cannot use the access token. You have to use the refresh token to regenerate the access token. For this way, user don't need to log in. Log in. So that's why we keep this refresh token, because we don't want the user to log in every 1 hour. So now we added 4 endpoints. With the 4 endpoints implemented, we are now add the route. We need to add this route in the server.js file, this line. We need to add this line here in your server. We add this line application use file. So then the server can, when you start the server can include the 4 routes. Okay. So you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 endpoints here. After this step, with that, the server is running. We already have endpoints here. For example, let me do it here. So now I'm going to call this one. Will call the login endpoint. I click that. You can see that, okay, my server endpoint will be triggered. I just run it. The Autodesk. This is Autodesk Authentication server. So it will ask you to log in because I already logged in here. So it recognizes I'm logged in and ask me if I want to authorize this application to perform the following permission for this application. So the user, which means like me, I need to click the allow. So allow to give the permission to the API's application to access my data. I click allow. Okay. So you can see it goes to my basic main domain here on the root folder. It's still cannot get anything because we don't have anything on the root sub-root. But if I check, if I go here, if you right click, you click the inspect if you are using Chrome. And if you are going back to the application, if you are not using Chrome, I believe you should be able to see the develop tool, anything like that, more tools, develop tools. If it like that, if you go to use the develop tools, you will see that this is a developer console. It provides you a lot of information for you to debug. And if you go to the application, and I believe you can, if you go to you go to it here, application, you go to the cookies, select the localhost 8080, and you will see the session and the session.sig, the two. They are, this is where you keep your refresh token, access token, and also the expire time. But it's encrypted, so you cannot see the original token. So if you see this one, or if I click here, API.tls profile here, I get the name of this user. It will respond the name of the user. If you get the name of the user, which means you are all set. The authentication side is all set. So I see a couple of everything is right. Okay, I'm pretty happy to see that. And
I think only one question from Red is when he want to log in, he got the request error. I'm investigating if
what's the error message?
Request error.
Request error. I think we may need to go on, and we may need to do live debug after the break. We will break after the server side is finished. Yeah. Okay. If you hit that probably because of the if you're logging, right?
Yeah, maybe the server side is the code. The endpoint is not ready or something else.
Yeah. Okay, so we will get back to you later if the issue is not solved. Okay, so but you can continue with the following section. No problem with that. Now this after the authentication, so we are going to use the project browsing. Project browsing is where it's mainly to help you to get your account and also the project. The project ID is actually the entry point of the issue API. All the issue API, you need to provide the project ID. Yeah. So the code this is similar. Yeah. Every time the structure is similar, we will also create a couple of endpoints. We will create two endpoints to get endpoints, get the hubs and get the hub projects. And we will create a couple of services to help to do the real work. We use the SDK to get the GitHub and get hub projects. The API we are used is the two APIs API where is here. This is the API provided by Autodesk, and this is actually endpoint, or you can call it API from your server side. Okay. Yeah, the scope is data read. We only need the read. And let's go back to the tutorial here. Okay, let's go back to the tutorial. And where is the... Okay, I stop debug. Yeah. So we are going to do the project browser. Yeah. So this one we will go a little bit quick because the framework is the same. So first thing is that we need to implement the logic for browsing through the hubs and project. What we need to do is we are going to add some services in the APIs.js. So what we need to add first, create the require the SDK client. The SDK client. You can see this line is dark, right? This is a new line we need to do. We just copy this line, add it here, and after I required this client, I need to create the client. We need to create a client object here. So I copy this one. I created the data management client here. And after the client was created, I can use the client to call the SDK. Let's use the SDK client to call the SDK. So here we are going to add 2 more services in APIs.js. So go back to the APIs.js, scroll down to the end, and copy the two more service, get hubs and get projects here. It's simple. Just get all the hubs and get the projects. Yeah, use the SDK. Okay. So you can see that we add some more service in the APIs.js. And after that, we are going to implement the route side, which is the server endpoint. So we are going to add a new file named hub.js. Hub.js. Please make sure select route. I may need to pause a little bit to make sure everyone catch up. So here, what on the APIs.js file is that we are going to add 2 more services, and add 2 more services because if you want to add 2 more services, you need to get the client, get the data management client. Require this data management client here and create an object of the data management client here. And after that, you can use the data management client in your service method. 2 more here. Okay. Hope you will catch up here. And after this, we are going to create. Now we are going to create the endpoints, the server endpoints in the route. We are going to create the file name hubs.js, select the folder of route, click add files, and then hubs.js. The simple way is just click copy, paste here. And then I'm going to explain to you. It's similar, nothing new. So you just get all the service from the APIs.service file. So you can say get projects, get hubs, and you also add the refresh middleware, here, because this one can be used to refresh your token. So every time you can say I use this auth refresh middleware, which for this route, it means every time when user call the endpoint with this route, it will first trigger this. It will first call this method. This method will help you to refresh your token, to refresh your access token. Okay, so it will make sure your token is valid all the time. And then get hubs, you just call the service to get the hub, and you just provide the hub information back to your client side, and this is get the project. Get the project, you provide the hub ID because they need to know, they need to specify which hub they are going to fetch all the projects. Okay, it's called get all the projects. This is hub.js. And as we did before, after that, don't forget to add this route here. Don't forget to add this route in your server file. So here is mentioned to mount the route to your server application. Add this line, okay, in your server.js file. Then that's it. That's it. So that's it. We will do a test. We are going to do a test. So let me do this one. So for the test, I need to restart my server. Okay, I start the server. I don't need this breakpoint. Okay, the server is started, and then I can check all the hubs. Use this request. I just copy the link to check all the hubs. This will request my server side IPS/hubs. If I run that, you can see that I have a couple of hubs listed. Yeah, which is expected. You can see that there are a couple of hubs listed, and many of the hubs prefixed with iDot. iDot is not BIM 360 or ACC hub. You can ignore that. Yeah, ignore that. It's Autodesk other SaaS hub. For BIM 360 or ACC, we are only interested in the B dot hub. So for example, this one, I'm going to copy the hub ID here, and then use another endpoint. Yeah, this one. Okay, let me do this. Let me call this one. I need to replace this parameter with my hub ID. Yeah, I'm going to replace hub ID. Okay, I'm going to replace here. Now I replaced this with the hub ID. I call this callback. Yeah, there's a dot. I need to remove the dot. You can see I get the list of the projects. So you see that the endpoint works on my server. Yeah, the endpoint works on my server. So anyone can send this request to your server, to the server, to get the detail of the projects and hubs. Next step, we are going to talk about the issues, project issues, and also the issue settings. So yeah, so the code is something similar. We are going to provide the two endpoints, get issues and create issues here. And the service, we are going to create a couple of service, use the issue API. Yeah, you should be very familiar with this framework, right? So yeah, I don't need to talk more. Here is the detail of the issue data. So when you get the issue, this is the detail of that data. You can get the ID, the type, the issue type ID and the subtype ID. Yeah, and also if it's a push pin issue, you can get the linked documents here, and root cost ID, custom attributes here. For the issue list, when the service provided you the list, it's actually pagination because you may have a very large number of the issues. You can specify the offset and a limit to get the issues of that page. So we will talk that in the code side. And for the import issues, the payload there are a couple of the attributes which is required. You have to provide the title, the subtype ID, and the status. And you can also provide a couple of some other optional attributes like the due date, root cause ID, something like that. Will be used in our tutorial. So let's go the demo. Go back to the tutorial and project issues. We see project issues. Okay. So here, first, we are going to add a couple of service, right? Add a couple of service in the APS.js, same as previous. So go to the service APS.js file. And first, what I think we need to require the library. We need to require the SDK library. Okay. Require the issue library here. And create issue here. You can see that the same one. Create the issue client, issue SDK client here. Yeah, create an issue client object here. And then come back to the end to add some service of the issue. Okay. So then we go to the end of this file, copy here. This is the get issue. We're trying to get all the issue from within the implementation of this method. You can see we did a while true, a while do while iterate. We are checking if the offset is larger than total result. So if it's not, we are going to do the request the issue. Let's see. Let's make it here. Make it a little big. If it's not, we are going to move to the next page. you can see we are going to the offset is increased, and we are going to use the increased offset, which move to the next page of the issue to get the next page of the issue. So every time we get one page of the issue and we put all the issue in our result. So with that, we can get all the issues from this list. This is extract issue. Okay, so here is some explanation of the pagination. Pagination here, as you can see, we did the pagination for the issue list. By the way, you can, when you try to get all the issues, you can also use the filter to get only you are interested. You can use the filter to filter the whatever the specific issue you want. And this will help you to reduce the number of the issues. Okay. And this is a get export issue, or the you get all the issues. And the next one we are pretty interested is to import issues. How we can import issues to ACC, which is pretty important. So the issue important service here, where first let's copy paste the code here, and I will explain it for you. Let's copy the the code here. Go to the end of the APIs.js file. Paste that. Okay, so now we are. Let me explain what this create or modify issue did. So you can see that we get the data from the client side, and we are going to use the result list to track all the status of the issue if the issue is created successful or failed. So you can see we are going to iterate all the items from the data which sent by the client side, and create issues with project ID and the payload and each payload. Each payload is what the list of that. Each list is kind of like an item of the issue data. So we will use get the ID CSV call something payload from the issue data, and then we are going to use the issue API to create the issue, provide the payload. Yeah. Okay. So there are two ways here. Because if there is no, the ID is none, because it means that we are trying to create a new issue. We use the create issue, because if the ID is already existed, if the issue ID is existed, if it means the issue is already existing, we are going to use the patch to modify the issue, to update the issue. Okay, so this is the two ways to handle the import CSV file. Okay. So after that, we created the two service, the export issue and the import issue. Yeah, import issue and export issue. We are going to create the server endpoint. Yeah, go back to the root and create the issue.js file. Same thing, issue.js file, and yeah, copy paste. So you can see we added two more endpoints to get the issue and create the issue. Yeah, inside of the endpoints, you can see we use the service. We call our service just created. Yeah. And the last but not least, make sure to add this issue route to mount this issue route in your server.js file. Go back to the server.js file. Yeah, add to mount this issue.js file. Then that's it. We can do a quick test for the issue. So to do that, let me just to do that, let me just start the server. Yeah, start the server and go back to tutorial, and yeah, use this one. Get issues. Okay, so I'm going to create one, but here you see that I'm trying to get all the issues, and then I need to provide the project ID. Yes, project ID. I can select one of the project. I'm going to use this one to do the test. Yeah, so I can use the B dot, or you can remove the B dot. I think both works fine. Yeah, the project ID, click that. No, I think let's do this. Yeah, I think we need to remove the B dot because in ACC, the B dot, the project ID with B dot is used by data management API, but for the ACC, it's because it's already ACC, so we don't need to have the B dot to understand which application this is, so which hub this is. So we just need to use the GUI ID here. Okay, so you can see that I get a couple of the issue listed here. The issue ID, the title is in something like that, and issue type ID. Something I need to mention with you is the permitted attributes, not permitted action. So this means the permission you are allowed to do the action. You are permitted to do the action, to add the comments, to add attachment, to delete that. So this is what you can do to this issue. Okay, yeah, and the permitted status. This is what you can do to change the status. Okay, yeah. So with that, you should get the issue. Yeah, I think the content is pretty much, and yeah, we're almost there. Don't worry, but we need to be a little quick. So okay, so next one is issue setting. After that, we will take a break. Okay, no worry. So next one is issue setting. Issue settings. So we not only we can get the issue list, but also we can get the issue types, and issue root causes, issue custom attributes, and user permissions. Yeah, like that. So what the code here is similar. We provide some roles to help you to provide the details of the issue settings, and the services are here. Remember that for the get issue types and the root causes, please make sure to include the subtypes or include root causes. This with this you can get the root cause. Otherwise, you just get the category. Okay, so the APIs API is used here. And the user profile is a little bit tricky. So you can get all your permissions to handle the issue from this project. So you can the main thing you may need to pay attention is assign all or assign same company. So if you get the user profile of the issue, if there is a new, which means that you have the permission to create a issue, and what kind of permitted permission you have is by this one. The permitted action is if this is assign all, which means you can create an issue and assign to anyone outside your company. And if it's assigned same company, it means you can only assign the issue to your same company. Okay, so let's do the demo. Go back to the issue settings here, and there is one request here, but no worry. Let's see that later. So go to the issue settings, and same as before, go to APIs, because we already have the issue client. So this time, so we don't need to there's no need there's no need to require the client, the SDK client, and create the issue. The client is already created. So we just go to the end and paste that. So the detail of the, let me see, the issue setting, what the service is, it provides the I think it's for service. So get the issue subtype. You can see that we are calling the SDK to get issues, get issue types. We are using the include subtype. Make sure to add this parameter. And then it will provide you all the subtypes, all the issue subtypes. It's still pagination. So you just use pagination to iterate all the page to get all your sub issue types, and get all the root causes, get all the issue root causes here, and get it's same. Just get the issue, make sure to include the root cause, and get the issue custom attributes. Get a definition here, use the pagination, nothing different, and get the issue user profile. This one is a little bit different. You can use the issue SDK to get the user profile, as I mentioned before. Okay, we created the services here, and then we go to the endpoints. Go to the server endpoints. We already mentioned this part here. We go to the endpoints. We are going to reuse the issue.js endpoints. Add a couple of more. I go to the issue.js, reuse this one, and add a couple of more. Add a comma here. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 more services export here, and then we are going to include the route, include the endpoints here. Make sure before the last line, you just add them here. Before the last line and in the end. Okay, you can see we add 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 endpoints, which will help you to provide to get the issue settings. Then that's it. Because you already put that into the server, mounted this issue.js in the server side. We don't need to do it again. And now we are all set. Let's do a quick run the server. Start run the server. And if I do a quick check with this, I'm going to check with the project ID here. Okay, you can see I get all the subtypes list. Last one, because this is similar. Last one, but not least on the server side is the project admin. Let me just finish this one, and we will have a break. It's same. We need to provide the endpoints here, and we just need to provide one endpoint to get project user here, and we use we created the service and use the API. So use the APIs API here. Yeah. One thing you may need to remember that is, so for the role ID and the company ID, you can use the HQ endpoint to get a company ID. For the role ID, you may need to use the data connector API. We will talk that later in the optional session. So let's go to the tutorial and go back to tutorial. Everything should be same. It's very similar. So you just go to the service. Okay, so we are adding one more service. I add the client, require the client side. I go back to the APIs.js, add the client side, add the main client, and create one client object. Yeah, with here create one client, add the main client object here, and then I'm going to use the APIs.js, going to the end of this file, add this service line. This will be, we will get all the project user. We will call the admin SDK to get all the project user. As before, we need to do the pagination to get all the list. With that, go implement the server endpoint. Create the admin. If we go to the server, create admin.js file on the root and copy paste the code here. This is pretty simple. We just provide one endpoint to get the project users. So you can say, okay, this is the endpoint, get the project users. Yeah. Then, as I mentioned as before, we need to mount the root in the server.js file. We go back to the server.js file. Here you can see add this line. That's it. So that's it. And if I restart the server, I can call this endpoint here. I need to specify the ID, project ID here. Yeah, all the project users should be respond. You can see the project users here. So I know it's a little quick for the last couple of sessions, but they are pretty similar. Last part for the UI. So far, we created the server side. We created all the endpoints. You can see here we created all the endpoints from your server side, but we have nothing to show. So far, we have nothing to show to your user. So now we are going to add a couple of the UI to help you to create the application. So all the codes here should be inside the www root, and it includes the one index HTML file which has the tree, and you will include the inspire tree library we are using, and also the bootstrap table, and also the OXO. Bootstrap table we are used to list all the issues, and this source is used to build your HTTP request to communicate with your server endpoint. And one main.css file is used to manage your styles, and the sidebar which is tree bar, and it will be used to manage your hubs and project hierarchy. And the table.js, which is pretty important. This is actually this is a table we use this table to list all the items, including issues or subtypes, something like that. And it can be also export to CSV and import from CSV. So the main.js file to initialize the tree and the table. That's all the component from the www root. The table.js, something I want to mention about the table.js is tabs. So it will be looks like this one. So the left side is a tree view. You can see the hubs and projects, and the right side is a table. It include like five tabs, include issues, users, subtypes, root causes, and the custom attributes. So now let's go back to the code. Let's right here. So let's go to the UI framework. So here we are trying to build the client side of the application, because you are actually with your server side, this kind of endpoints provided, you can build the client the UI as you want. And the tutorial just build a simple UI for you. So first thing is that first file is the table.js file. We need to create a table.js file on the www root. Let's do this. Now, as I mentioned, so far we don't touch anything inside of the www root. It's all for UI. It's time. We are going to do that. We first created the table.js file. So let me copy the code here first. So this is the table.js file is actually created a table class, and it's used to maintain or manage all the data, all the issue data. So it provides the status of, it provides the, it includes the table ID, which you can get from the HTML element, and also the account ID, project ID, table key with a different session. It also has the data set. The data set is actually used to keep the data list. So anytime you change, you switch between your table key, it means you switch between the issues to users, something, it will refresh the data set to get the correct data. So it has also you can also get and set the table key and a couple of methods. We will leave it as it is. We will implement the details and explain it a little later. So you can reset here is reset the data and draw the table and export to CSV and import to CSV. Okay. And also we implemented two functions. One is a refresh table and another is init table. Okay, so they are used. The two method is the refresh table is used to refresh all the data to rejoin the table, and in init table you can see that we just it will initialize the table to check the table tabs here, which is defined as elements. Here you can see that it defines the tabs here, and it will use the elements to create all the tab based on the elements based on the value we defined in the table tabs. With that, we also add an event, which is a show table. So it means whenever any tab is activated, this method will be triggered. This method will be event will be called. So currently we will do nothing. We don't do anything here because the draw table is kind of like nothing here. But we will implement the detail in the draw table later. This is the two methods are pretty important: init table tabs and refresh the table. So we will implement the detail of the code later. Currently, it's just a placeholder. And then we need to create the sidebar. We create a sidebar, which you can see is a tree bar, and we create it with the sidebar.js file, same inside the www sidebar, and we will the sidebar did is basically it's the init the tree bar. So you can see it will use the inspire tree, create an inspire tree, and for the node, it will get it. For example, if there is no node, which means the root node, it will just get all the hub. So the hub node, the hubs will be the root node. And if the parent node, we will use the get projects to get all the project node here. So you can see from this one, we will initialize a tree with a hub and a project. You can also see, we can initialize a tree with ACC account and the projects inside the account. And every time when we click the node, we're only interested in the project. So which means if you select the project, we will call the onSelection changed event. This will be, this is a callback event. This onSelection change event will actually refresh the table. We will see that later. Okay, so now let's copy the code and paste in the sidebar.js. So with this sidebar, we will also we are now adding a couple of code logic here in the main.js. So the main.js here, you can see that we create a new file named .name.js. And what does this do? What does this main.js do? Is you can see first we need to create the login button. So we are going to get the login button, and if we already get the profile, which means the user is already logged in, so we are going to show a logout button with the username, so user can log out. If it's not, so we are going to show the login and then give the onClick event to call the endpoint, login endpoint. So if you are not logged in, we provide a button that you can click to request the login endpoint. Okay, so this is the main logic for this application. But there's one more thing you may need to also know is initialize the tree. So after the user is logged in here, when the log is used in, you will always initialize the sidebar tree with account ID project, and then we provided the callback for refresh table. So this callback is used to use the tree is initialized. So you can see here, initialize the tree, the callback provided here. When the tree is initialized, it will be every time when you select the project, it will trigger this selection change, which is here, refresh table. So every time you select the project, it will refresh the table. Okay, and also another one, init, last but not least step is init table tabs. So we will initialize the table. This is the main logic for the application. I just copy the code, paste it here to the main.js. And the next one is the CSS file. So I don't want to talk more about the CSS file. This is used to control the layout. Yeah, I'm not an expert, and the UI is also pretty simple. So if you want to manage, you want to make it looks nice, you can always adjust the CSS file to make it looks nice, looks better. Okay, I just put it here, copy paste the CSS file here. The last but not the last step is index HTML file. So which is the main entry point for your client side. So let me create this file here, index HTML file. And what it does is, let me copy, paste code here and explain a little bit here. So you can see first we are just add the link to the libraries where the client side is using, including the Inspire tree. Yeah, and we also we are going to use which is used directly inside of this project, and the bootstrap table we used to initialize the table. Yeah, and exo OS something here. So, and then it's a layout. It's a layout of the UI, which is pretty simple. Some logo, something, and yeah, we have the table of the issue table and the issue table like this. This is pretty simple. Go back here. So now I think everything, yeah, because this one thing mentioned here is that since the main.js is also an ES6 model, so we have to use the type model inside of the script tag. Okay, so far the framework of the UI framework should be there. Yeah, for the client side, actually we don't need to restart the server, but yeah. But for the safe case, I just restarted my server, and we are going to do the test for the UI framework. Yeah. So now, if I localhost 88, okay, you will see this kind of UI. So because I already logged in, so you can see I'm logging, right? I already logged in with it previously, and it always use refresh token to refresh my token after it expired in 1 hour. I already logged in and I have a couple of hubs here already. So these hubs are these hubs are actually not BIM 360 or ACC, it's Autodesk other SaaS hub. This one is the ACC hub, which I'm interested. If I click that, there are a couple of projects which I'm involved. I involved a couple of projects here, and the project I'm interested today is not ACC data model, it's bootcamp training project for issues. But we don't see any data here. That because we did not implement the reset data, some key method. Now, if you can, after you start your server, you run the application. If you can see this client, this UI, that means you are all set. Oh, good. And one thing I do need to remind you is check if you have this, if you use the static, express static www route to specify your client-side route. To draw the table and import the CSV file. So, okay. The table.js we mentioned before actually do the most of the job. So it will draw the table, it will get, you will get the column. The column will be get from the key of the JSON response, because the JSON response is a key value pair. So the key should be the column and the value should be the list. So we will always we will get it will automatically get all the keys from the JSON response to be used as the name of the column. And we will render the table with the JSON data. So we will also implement the export to CSV and import to CSV. When use the export to CSV, mainly we export all the raw data. But for some complicated object, some data might be the JSON object or complicated array. We will just use the complicated object to replace. But if you can still handle that by yourself, because the complicated some object include some symbols which cannot be passed by the CSV file. So, and import CSV file, we will import the issues from the CSV file in raw. And okay, let's go to the demo session. So UI framework, and last one, we will continue improve the table. So here as we already mentioned that we implemented the reset. We just had a placeholder for some method inside of the table, table.js. It's reset data, draw table, export to CSV, and import to CSV. Let's first to implement the first three methods. So here you can see, let me go here. So inside of the table.js, we have class table.js, right? And we will do the reset date. You can see, let's go back to here. The reset date is actually used to when you try to fetch the issue data from the server side. So it will based on your table key. For example, you selected the root course, so it will try to get all the issue root course based on the table key and your account ID, project ID, and then with that it has the request with this request URL. So you can see that this is a container. The table tab is a container. The table tab is a container be in, I should see, you should see table tabs should be a container. It includes the table keys as issues, users, and issue subtype. And it also has for each tab, it has the request URL and a name. You can see, for example, this issue subtypes, I will call the endpoint issue subtypes. So this is a set. This is all the data set for before to fetch the data, and with that, with this data in set, we will call the endpoint, the URL and the URL endpoint, which we get from here. We call this URL with the parameters data to your server, and you will get all the you will fetch the data for the current key tab, for the current table tab, for the current tab. I know it's a little bit confused here. So this I'm going to implement the reset data. Okay, now I'm copy the reset data here, copy paste to implement the reset data. And the next one is the draw table. The draw table, it means we are going, after we have the real data here, right? We prepared all the real data, we put it in the data set. And then we are going to draw the table with the data, with the real data. We get the column. First, we get the column from the data set. And then we are going to get the column, we get the key from the data, the first row, because first row is the key. So we get the key as a column name. You put it there, put it in the columns, and then we create the table. We created the bootstrap table with the data set, with all the data set. And of course, we will put the column information. We will also put the column information. I think it's column here. I believe it's here. Columns push. We will also put the columns data. Okay. So this is used to draw the table. So when we get the data, we just call this draw table to draw the table. Let me draw the table. I replace this one. You can just replace all of them. I just want to make it a little bit clear. So last one is export to CSV. Export to CSV. Let me just replace the method here. And just explain a little bit to you. So export CSV, you can, it actually, what it does is to get the data set. The data set includes the real data, and then join all the data set with the separator as a header, and then iterate all the list inside the data set to create the items of each items to be exported in CSV here. And then create a blob with the CSV content, with all the CSV content, and use text CSV file format to generate the CSV file. Okay, I already put it here. So far, we can export the data. We can draw the table and export the data. So let me save that. I don't need to refresh, don't need to restart the server, because everything I did here is the client side. The server side is, okay, I just refresh it. I get the same thing, but if I click the bootcamp training here, so now I see all the issues. If I change to users, I see the user, some users inside this project, and I see subtypes, root classes, custom attributes, user profiles, like here. So as I mentioned, for some of the, we just listed all the attributes here, but for some of the attributes, if it's complicated, we just use if it's a complicated object, we just flatten it like this way. Okay, So now we can, all the items, issue items can be listed in the table. We can export to the CSV, but I will do this a little late. So we go back to the tutorial for the last one to import issues. So how we can import issues? We provided a CSV file, CSV template, issue template CSV file here for you to start with. But let's implement the import, the last part, the import from CSV for here. So in the, it actually, the method is here. Let me copy and paste it. Paste it here. To let me use this one. I can I use this one. This might be a little bit clear. So import from CSV file. So which you can, we prepared a CSV file right here. As you can see, let me just show you. This is the issue template.csv file. You can see we already have a couple of issues. It's the ID, root cause, something like that. A couple of attributes we are going to use to create issues. And the first column is actually the name, the attribute name, and this is our attribute value. So with that, we will see import issue, import from CSV, import from CSV. So the main thing where the method did is to iterate, to read all the items from the CSV file. So I use the array from the import CSV file and put that into the file load, and we just did a quick check. So here you will see, we will see the file. Look, test type of. This is the new file read. Yeah. So when the file read is loaded, we are going to get the target result. Yeah, here is the result from the CSV file. We are using the yeah, it will be with some part to pass some symbols and split with n, which will be split with different list as to a list, and then for each list, especially for the first list, first row, it will be the it should be the key. It should be the key, as I mentioned here. Yeah, it's key. So I just use the key. I just split with a comma to get all the keys and make sure the keys do have a lot of keys, but we don't want to use all of them. We just use a couple of keys as defined in the attribute keys here. The key, we are going to check from the second row until the end. We get all the values. We will, we get the second row values and format it item. So you can see here. So the JSON item, we use the key and the value. So it basically create the JSON item with key values. So like this one, for example, the ID is ID, the value is this one for the first item, and the second item is the key is ID, the value is the second ID, like this. Yeah. So this is the JSON item, and we push all the JSON item inside of the request list, and then we send to the send this JSON request data list to the URL. This URL is actually this URL should be the create or modify issue. Yeah. So this one create or modify items. So yeah, with this one, we are able to create the issues from the JSON file. And let me see. Yeah, I finished it here. So if I go back to the here, there are a couple of reminder or note you may need to be aware. For example, we are recommend use the same pattern of the CSV file that exported from the previous function, which means here, for example, issues, we can export. We click here, this button, we will export. You can see it will export to CSV file. The format is kind of like the key value. We encourage you if you want to import issues from if you want to import issues with all the details, you can modify, update based on the exported CSV file. You can change something, for example, change something here. But like I said, if it's a complicated object, we are using complete the stream to replace because we cannot pass inside the CSV file. But if you want to do that, you can do that. You can pass the completed objects with your own algorithm. This is the first suggestion, and you add new issues. If you want to add a new issue, just leave the ID as empty. If we want to modify existing issue, keep the column ID with the issue ID. If you want to modify that, you just remain the issue ID here. And some other reminds. One thing I want to mention that if you are using Microsoft Excel to update the CSV file, please make sure don't use some symbol like a slash, this one. It will be use this symbol because the slash will be detected as a separator for CSV. With that, I think we are all set. We can do a quick try with the import session. This is the server. I already have everything here. I don't need to restart the server, but let me just refresh the web application, and click here. This is the project I'm interested. This is the issue list, as I can export all the list to CSV file here, and the all the issues are exported here. And then I can import issues here. So I would suggest that if you want to import the issue, you can start based on the template we are using here. Here is the template, right? And I can download the template. Let me just open that. Okay, this is the issue template I just downloaded. So you can see here, there is the issue ID, because if I want to create some new issue, I just remove the ID. It means I create a new issues. And the root cause ID, I'm not sure if it's correct. I can go back here to my application. I go back to the root causes. So I just select one of them. Root cause. Let me do, no, just select. Okay, make sure it's correct. Just select one root cause in your, it looks like a same in your project. Okay, so I add a root cause and a title. For example, let me say boots camp issue gun burst. Bootcamp issue second, and this will be the bootcamp issue third. Okay, so description, I don't want to change that, and this is the subtype ID. I need to go back to the subtype. Yeah, there are multiple subtypes. You can see the details, client feedback. I'm using, for example, using the design subtype ID issue. Okay, so let me put it here as before. Okay, so I create a couple of issues here, and one is closed. Now I just save it. Now let's see how it is going. So I need to go back to the issue tab to import all the issues. Now currently we have six issues. We can also check later from the ACC, the issue template. Okay, let's see. Okay, the issue is important. Now you can see that we have 9 issues. And if I go back, if I open the console here, you can see that the row 1 is created with issue ID, blah, blah, blah. You can check the status from the console, from your console. So all the 3 issues are created. So I can check it here. Bootcamp. Let's see. Bootcamp issue 1, 2, 3. Yes, they are all here. And if I go to the issues, you will see the bootcamp issue 1 and 3, they are open. And there's one, I think it's closed. It's not deleted, it's closed. If I check the status, build the status, if I status include the closed, okay, I will see this one, the bootcamp issue 2, which is closed. So if I want to modify the issue, it's the same. You just add the ID here, put the ID here. But I don't want to do that. You can do a trust. This is a homework for you.